Chapter 10. The sun is higher than the first day. Mrs. Payne with women. Beanley spent a few hours in the morning with people with disabilities, continuing, even slowly, to repair them. And in the evening, Elizabeth was eating bread in the yard. However, there is no table. Bamboo Darcy, while Mrs. Beanley, sitting next to her, continued to follow the course of her letter, and continued to call her sister's interested messages. Mr. Hurst and Mr. Beanley was elected, but Miss Hurst is watching their game. Elizabeth boarded the boat, and was thrilled to see what had happened between Darcy and his friend. The woman's constant appreciation, whether in writing, the goods on her line, or the length of her letter, and the indifference from which she received her praise, provided good communication, and communication. His thoughts are good to everyone. "Sir Darling is glad to receive a letter." He did not respond. "Your writing is strong." "You're wrong, my writing is late." "How many books can you have for a year? Even business books? How wrong I was to think that." "Fortunately, they have fallen by my side in your job." "Pray to tell your brother I want to see." "I told him about your heart." "I'm afraid you don't need a pen. Let me turn to you. Better writing." "Thank you, but I always do my own orders." "How do you want to write?" "Just be quiet." "Tell your brother you're glad to hear how the guitar plays. And tell me that I like a few of his words on the table, and I think I like them more than Mrs. Grantley." "Can you delay your argument until I rewrite it? I don't have time to argue with them yet." "Oh, it's not over. See you in January. But you write her a long letter, Darcy." "Usually it's long, but I'm not always beautiful." "It's a rule for me that a person who can write a simple long book will not suffer." "Darcy wasn't satisfied, Caroline," said her sister, "because writing wasn't easy. He learned 4 words, isn't that right, Darcy?" "My style is very different from yours." "Oh," Miss Beanley said, "Charles wrote without thinking immediately. He left half of his words and deleted the others." "My thoughts pop up quickly because I don't have time to explain. So sometimes my letters don't matter to the people I write to." "Your humility, Mr. Beanley," said Elizabeth, "must be destroyed." "Nothing is more important than humility," Darcy said. "Okay, sometimes just bragging." "And you call me both of these simple little things?" "Their innocence, the error of your heart, because you can write well, because it's easy and unthinkable in the beginning of thinking, and then you lose hope, above all, if you can't judge. They know that office managers always work hard. To you or to others?" "No," Beanley said, "it was hard for me to remember the night of the silly things that were said this morning. And with all due respect, I believe the stories should be loved. India." "I can say you believe it, but I do not believe you will go far for this kind of beauty. Your attitude is based on your ability to become someone I know. And if your friend rides a horse and says, 'Beanley, you'd better stay for a week, then you can go too,' and in other words, you'll be gone in a month." "You are convinced," Elizabeth lamented, "that Beanley has not been treated fairly. You are showing him more than he has shown himself." "I am very happy," said Beanley, "to change my friend's message in favour of my anger, but I was afraid you gave it to his master because he did not like it." "Did Darcy see your original goal as a valuable victim of a crash to illustrate it?" "In my words, I don't understand what happened. Darcy has to speak for himself." "I'm asking you to reconsider your decision to call me, but I do not agree. The case has been given to stay in your place. You have to remember, Mr. Bennet, that the friend is coming back, and he is late. It's easy to get away. Attract your friends. Quite rare suffering is not recommended for you. Let me show you, Darcy, that you do not allow anything to be in a romantic relationship. G. Beanley. Before he talks about what he would do after that. But more often between friends and acquaintances, when one is not, want to change your mind without having to spend a lot of time. Should you think that it is wrong to do your own thing without waiting to be paid? Wouldn't it be nice if, before we think about this, we can see the key points of taking this question and the stability between the parties? Of course, said Beanley. Hear everything without forgetting the length and width, to make it more important than controversy, Miss Bennet, as you know. I can assure you that if Darcy had not been too long compared to me, I would not have given him such great respect. I say that there is nothing worse than Darcy at any given time and place, especially at her home, and on Sunday evenings when she is not available. Darcy smiled, but Elizabeth thought she saw him angry, so he seemed to be smiling. Miss Bingley was deeply hurt by the respect she received, raising her foolish brother. I understand your plan, Bingley, said his friend. You don't want to argue, and you want to keep quiet. Maybe I will. Conflict is like a struggle. If you and Mrs. Bennet fail until I leave the room, thank you very much. Then you can say whatever you want about me. What you asked for, said Elizabeth, is not my commitment, and Darcy wants to finish his letter. Darcy followed his advice, and finished his letter. After business, he encouraged Miss Bingley and Elizabeth to enjoy music. Miss Bingley hurriedly moved to the piano, and when he politely asked to lead Elizabeth to speak with dignity and love, he was left alone. Hurst sang with his sister, and while he was working, Elizabeth could not stop herself as she went to the instrument for other songbooks. Mr. Darcy looked at her. He didn't know how to think that recommending an adult might be the goal. Even watching it because he doesn't like it is amazing. He just thinks instead that he is ultimately bothered by the fact that something he thinks is wrong and bad. The thought did not harm him. He was so in love with him that he could not fulfil his will. After singing some Italian songs, Mrs. Bingley renewed her beauty in the Scottish air. And soon Sir Darcy, who approached Elizabeth, said, "Didn't you hear persuasion, Miss Bennet, to take advantage of me as an opportunity to roll the ball?" He laughed, but did not answer. Surprised and silent, he repeated the question. "Oh, I heard it, but I don't know what to say," he said. "I mean, I really don't want to dominate the band. I'll embarrass you if you ask." "I can't imagine it." Elizabeth, who met him, was amazed at how precious he was. But his action was a mixture of taste and dizziness that made it difficult to persecute anyone. And Darcy is not as magical as a woman like him. He believes that even if his relationship is not easy, he should be in danger. She saw or doubted Miss Bingley and was jealous, and her best friend Jane's health concerns were exacerbated by her desire to take Elizabeth away. He often deceived Darcy into pleasing his guests, telling him about their marriage and arranging for his sexual pleasure. "I hope," he said the next day, walking through the woods, "if you have a good knowledge, give your mother some good advice on how to keep it. Looking for the little things that belong to pride and disrespect for men. Can you tell me about the lights in my house?" "Hi, yes. Do not allow yourself to show pictures of your nephew and brother Phillips at the Pemberley Mass. Put them next to your nephew's siblings. They're in the same place, you know, on different lines. When it comes to your painting from Elizabeth, then you should not be surprised. For who is an artist who can bring justice to beautiful eyes? It may not be easy, obviously, depending on the feeling, but you can copy colours and shapes and eyes, last but not least." Mrs. Hurst and Elizabeth also met from another trip. "I did not know you were leaving," said Beanley, a little irritated, afraid to hear it. "You hurt us terribly," replied Mrs. Hurst. "Ran away without saying you were going out." He then grabbed Darcy's free hand and let Elizabeth go on her own. The approach accepts all three. Darcy knew them well and said, "This method is not suitable for our game. We are on our way." But Elizabeth, who was missing, laughed out loud. No, stay where you are. It's well divided, and it seems to be a strange way. The pictures are damaged and so forth. Goodbye." He was happy to run, happy as he wandered, looking forward to returning home in a day or two. Jane has since recovered and stayed outside her home for a few hours at night. Until next week.
If she wanted to say.
Yeah, a little effect from the sun coming in. Yeah. Little dots coming in.
Yeah, we've got the, haven't got that light on it, have we?
I know.
I said that.
Yeah, you always say it. I know,
Oh, yeah,
but it runs off
turns out because as late as possible because of the
because it runs off battery. So
battery, as this one's
Yes.
that's why.
Right, so what's going on?
It's a very soggy script, just as well as printed on laser-finder.
Yeah, well, that's what I figured. I used it to shelter the camera because I figured this is on a laser printer. I don't want the camera getting wet.
Put a coat or something.
Yeah, or an umbrella.
Yeah, but it's only about rain. Right, so, well, Jane is still saying, remember, Jane has been ill and is staying at Netherfield.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lizzie wants him to go. So, on chapter 10, when apparently the sun is higher than the first day. That's nice.
Do we have to do that?
Oh, good old Bamboo Darcy is back. Good. I don't know who Bamboo Darcy is. And she continues, "Your writing is strong." Now, who do we have now? Mr. Beanley is now here. Yeah, despite the fact it's her sister, but it's not, he's her brother. Anyway, Darcy wasn't satisfied.
Are we still in the camera and do you want your last page back?
Yeah, I mean, you always keep drifting that way. You always do moving a little bit that way. Thank you. Now, Elizabeth.
It's really redundant in that scene. I needn't have been there.
No, because you are there. The Bidleys are there.
Oh, right.
That's what Elizabeth is there. We haven't finished that scene yet.
Oh, right.
What's going on? Elizabeth. Who the bloody hell is talking now? If that's Darcy, that must be Elizabeth. Darcy, Elizabeth. Okay, so it must be, yeah, because it must be Mr. Darcy saying, what the hell is Elizabeth talking about? I know. But more often between friends and acquaintances. Mrs. Beanley renewed her beauty in the Scottish air. I don't know how we know the air is Scottish, but we were. And soon, surprised and silent, he repeated the question. I repeat questions silently. Their marriage and arranging for his sexual pleasure. Can I see Miss Beanley's hiring in prostitutes? For who is it?
Because we don't know which one it's meant to be.
Who?
We're both doing the actions because we don't. We do clue. Meant to be
idea.
saying it.
Well, it's meant to be Miss Beanley, but she's talking to Mr. Darcy, so he's going to be joining in the conversation, isn't he? You know?
Just reacting.
Exactly. So, Mr.
But
Darcy,
Elizabeth,
who was missing, that's a book. And then, supposed to be Elizabeth, but apparently it's he, so anyone can do it. But apparently, he was happy to run, happy as he wandered.
Let's get your jumper back on. It's a bit nippy there.
In fact, that is the end of chapter 10.
have we done just 10? That's just one chapter we've done.
Yeah, because that was a bit of a long one. Have a little sit down. The others are much shorter. Chapter 11 is only 2 pages, and chapter 12 isn't even a page.
Is it?